so much. As a mother of two, I'm already so inspired by every word that you said. And we have all gone through that same evil mother-in-law and get the pressure of getting married and all of those things. So, I was listening to you very carefully. And it's my bad that I've yet not able to read the book. I'm definitely going to pick up a copy today. So, you said that it's very important to have a culture, to build that culture. How do you define that culture?
So I think cultures, we must understand culture as a larger word. It's just not something that, as I said, you write on your coffee mugs. Cultures is something that human beings have been building. So whenever you get into a community, whenever there is a team, maybe it's not necessary that it's required for an organization. Whenever a country gets together, there is a culture that gets built through said and demonstrated behaviors, Naziya, equally through unsaid behaviors.
And what would be they? I mean, if you can give me examples.
So, I've built great places to work wherever I have worked, right? And I would use the model of the great place to work to say, okay, this is what it takes to build a good place to work and to build a culture. So what are we talking about? In a great place to work, you're looking at how are you fair to people? How are you empathetic to people? How are you giving them a purpose? How are you building stories around the purpose so that they are aligned to it? So whether, let's say it's the Hindu culture, you have a purpose, you have value systems, and then you have stories and narratives around that which drive the culture. So similarly, if I say that in an organization I want to be transparent and I want to be fair and I want to have people to have pride in the organization, then around each of them, of course, I have to put systems and processes to ensure the organization is transparent. That's one part of the culture. Equally, I need to have stories to demonstrate that how we were fair and transparent.
Give a particular example.
Yes,
and
indeed.
Tell us that
yes,
how
indeed.
did you do it in without naming the
No, that's okay. So let's talk about fairness. All right. So I'll give you two examples of fairness. So when I said that we will be a fair organization, now what happened is I'm talking about 2007, 2008. The financial crisis happened, etc., etc. Across the board, whether it was in my industry or outside of industry, people were asking people to go. Everybody was protecting their jobs and their bonuses, Naziya, and a lot of people were asked to leave. And I went up to my senior leadership team and I went up to the rest of the organization and said, we talk about fairness, but if we ask people to leave at this stage where they're unlikely to get jobs, how are we being fair? It's okay to, it's not that I haven't asked people to leave, but you can ask them to leave when there are jobs aplenty, not when there's a scarcity and there's a recession on or a slowdown on. So what we did is all of us decided that we will take hefty salary cuts, but not even one employee will be asked to go. Okay. I think that is a demonstration and people, this is 2007-8, 22 people are still talking about, at that moment, we showed fairness.
So coming back to your book, I been wanting to ask that, again, in these times that we are living in, what was the need to write a book which is actually not gender agnostic? It is talking about women, lady, you are the boss. We are, these conversations of, feminism and diversity and all been on for almost 10, 15 years. Ever since I entered workforce, I'm listening to them. I think you must be 10, 15 years senior and you would have struggled far more than us. So have we still not reached there? I mean, we're still not equal?
So a couple of years ago, the World Economic Forum said that it will take 108 more years for there to be gender parity. 108 more years. So that is the slow pace of change. Yes, of course, things have improved. There's no doubt from the time I started working to you started working to the youngsters today. I think things have improved. Much pushed by organizations themselves. Because organizations realize that if they don't focus on women, they lose 50% of the talent pool. So they did a lot. Women did a lot. Men did a lot. But even now, whether any fact you look at, the number of senior women leaders, just now Fortune 500 has moved to 10% women participation at a CEO level. Otherwise, it was always 5 to 6%. 2% of VC funding goes to women-led startups. 30% women at in the workforce, that number has fallen after the pandemic. It has fallen after the pandemic. These are the hard facts. The soft facts equally are that women are just, always being minimized and pushed backward and said, you cannot have it all. Your husband can be a great father and a husband and a great professional. You can be either or. So I think there are lots
I'm
of
sorry, but
places.
somebody is talking. Can you please, sir, can you have this conversation a little later, please? I'm sorry. Sorry. Yeah.
So many facts which prove that there's still not gender parity, and many social issues that are still plaguing women, which is preventing them from being treated equally. So I would say no, there is no parity as of.
How do we work it around? Like, how have you see the women who have been able to survive, what around them changed? Or did they change?
Yeah, so as Nietzsche would say, that only you can build the bridge across which you and just you can cross the river of life. No one else but you can build the bridge across which you and only you will cross the river of life. And I think that's so true. So yes, I don't think the women who have done well, people like you, my friend Dipali sitting there, etc., I don't think these women had it any different. They had the same issues. You talk to all the women who have done well, they've had the same issue. They've had to balance everything. They've had to manage the guilt. They've had to live with husband's transfers, social pressures, etc. I think what they did differently is, they did not look upon themselves as, oh, I'm a woman. They said, I'm a professional and I will do whatever it takes to be a good professional. I think they also worked very hard. And I think finally, Naziya, what they did, and I keep on telling people that the first battle you win or lose is in your mind. And I see so many of these, and I've got current examples where a woman falls pregnant and says, oh, I'll not be able to travel and I want to take a break. And I'm trying to convince her that if you take a break, you'll never be able to get back, okay? And at the same time, I have women who've had babies and in 3 months and 6 months, they're leaving them in creches or with their family members and getting back to work. Because they were very serious that I want to be a professional. I will have everything. So I think it's a lot of it is here.
But while I completely agree, a lot of it is here, and when you really want to do something, you will find solutions. But there are practical problems. There are some women who cannot travel when they are pregnant. There are some women who do not have that kind of support system to, leave their child. And as a mother, it is not easy to leave your child, when you are not confident of the support system. So do you also think as a society, we need to work on having better creches, having better transport, or there are other factors also that will help women to do better?
Yes, certainly. I think the infrastructure-wise, there is a lot that has happened. Let us admit that the organizations, the government have done a lot in terms of deciding a longer maternity leave, ensuring there are creches at work, asking, a lot of organizations work on flexi timing, etc. So I think there's a lot of infrastructure support that's happened. Where I fear too much change has not happened is in our immediate families and our. So the biggest pressure a woman faces today is not from the organization or the infrastructure issues. It is from her husband and in-laws and parents saying, you are primarily a nurturer. You need to take care of your kids first. Job or baad mein dekhenge. And I think the other thing, Naziya, which we are not talking about is, when we talk about the mind, how do we bring up our daughters? Let's think about how are we bringing up our daughters. We bring up our daughters to minimize themselves. जोर से मत बात करो, लाल लिपस्टिक मत लगाओ, छोटे कपड़े मत पहनो, है करके क्यों हंस रहे हो? Whereas the boys can be as open and as rambunctious as possible. And the moment we tell our daughters, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, see, we are doing it out of a care, out of a desire to protect them. But the more you tell a woman, you can't do this, she will get into an organization. But you see, they will not put up their hands. They will not speak out in a boardroom. There'll be 3 women. Today, there are enough women. They will not open their mouth because their entire life they've been told, you नहीं कर सकते, नहीं कर सकते, नहीं कर सकते, जोर से मत बात करो, जोर से मत हंसो, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. And I think that is a mental shift that we have to do, where we have to be able to tell our daughters, you can achieve whatever you want.
So true. How would you define lady boss?
So, Naziya, as I said, I think good leadership is gender agnostic. So, you've got good male leaders, good female leaders, bad male leaders, bad female leaders. So, in that sense, good leadership is gender agnostic. But specifically, if you were to ask me, how do I define a lady boss? I think what I would say is, I think there are certain strengths women have. They are empathetic, they are collaborative, they are more nurturing, they are willing to listen, they are
Sir,
better
I think you really need
communicators.
to listen to this. This is important. This is about our society.
So they are better communicators. And today's generation, Naziya, today's generation, the Gen Z that we are talking about, the millennials, they don't want that command and control style of working at all. They are far more confident than we were. They're far more, they want to be collaborated with. They want their points. I have a 29-year-old son, okay? So anybody who has a Gen Z, a millennial at home will realize they have strong opinions and they want opinions heard. I don't think men, especially the old style of working, which was so much command and control, know how to deal with this generation. I think women do a far better job.
Because they have raised children.
They have raised, and they are naturally empathetic. And if you've seen what people are saying about the New Zealand Prime Minister who just resigned, there's so much positivity around the way she has talked, her empathy, her vulnerability, her ability to communicate deeper issues. I think that's what today's generation employees want. And I think women will be great managers. But to be good lady bosses, they have to tell themselves, I can be a CEO if I want, I can be a successful entrepreneur if I want, I can be a great professional if I want. I don't want to have that inner critic, that imposter who's telling me you're not good enough, good enough. I think celebrating our successes, telling ourselves constantly, every morning I tell girls to say, get up in the morning and say you're great. Get up in the morning, look in the mirror and say you're great, and then go out to work.
I think more than being good or great, you just have to tell yourself that it's okay. There's nothing different if you're a woman, right?
Exactly. In fact, there are many advantages that we bring.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. At Exchange for Media, we have our struggle is actually reversed. I have 20 team member, I have one boy. I'm struggling to have more boys in my team. And I'm not biased. Huh? Trust me, I'm not biased. It so happened that more girls that I meet are far more capable than the boys. So I end up choosing them. So if we again coming back to your book, if from your book you can give me some specific examples that you have spoken about that can tell, women who look up to you like me, how can we better at ourselves at work and career, and even that the same thing we can replicate at home, while we're managing our families.
So I think there are three things that I would like women to change about themselves. One, as I said, is this whole tentativeness that is inside of them, because they've been always taught to minimize themselves. And all of you would know about the McKinsey research, which asked equally competent men and women at a middle management level that how many of you believe you'll reach the top? 76% of the men said they'll reach the top, only 50% of the women thought they'll reach the top. And this was, feedback from the organization is the same. It is what they are feeling about themselves. So I think I would tell them, have more confidence in yourself. The second thing I would tell them is that, over a period of time, we have weakened our muscle of choice. We, when we were young, our parents took our decisions for us, then we grew up, then our husbands took our decisions for us. So we have allowed other people to take our decisions, from what we'll wear to whether we'll work or not. And our muscle of choice has got weakened. And I say this, that you have to strengthen it. You have to. So often I see, and I do this myself, so we'll go out for dinner and my husband will say, oh, what do you want to eat? So I'll start looking at the menu in a very interested manner and figuring out. So say, so what do you want to eat? So I'll say, I think the chicken looks good. And he's, I think the pork is great. So I'll say, okay. So again, but you decide today. So I think the chicken is good. He'll call the waiter. Let's order the pork. So you give up. And it's a ठीक है. And so on and so forth. We just give up. AC temperature क्या होना चाहिए घर में? Give up. क्यों झगड़ा करना? Office में somebody interrupts you, and this happens all the time. You know, on several boards, and there are men who are interrupting me all the time, and then I just keep quiet. क्यों झगड़ा करना? You know, so we are weakening our muscle of choice. Till I realized this myself, and I said no. Next time somebody, and a senior, respected gentleman is interrupting me, I'm going to say, sir, you were rude. I was trying to finish something. Let me finish it, and then you speak. So I did that. And I think that's how slowly by slowly you start strengthening that muscle. And I think the final thing I would tell women is that, see, the world is always slotting us. There's a lovely research that was done by a Harvard professor, Dr. Rosabeth Mary Cantor. And she says that there are 4 stereotypes in which women are put by society. So there is the Iron Maiden, there is the mother, there is the seductress, and there is the bimbette. So the world will classify you in one of these. And sometimes we also fall into those traps. Forever I have played the mother of my organization. But why should we fall in these stereotypes? Okay? And I think that's the other thing, that we ourselves have to say that, you know, I will not be defined as a mother or as a Iron Maiden or a seductress or a pet. I will be actually somebody who's just good, great, without being stereotyped. I think we have to work very hard at that.
Another stereotype I believe women are suffering from lately is it's a fact that divorce cases have gone up in last 20, 25 years. There's a significant rise going by the numbers that are filed in court cases and all. That's because we are speaking up for ourselves,
Yes,
right?
yes.
That doesn't make us responsible for divorce. Both the partners
Yes.
are equally responsible for
Yes.
divorce. Like you said, that you have the pressure to run marriage because you can either be a good boss or you can be good at running the house, etc. But when you try to do the both, you know, there are a lot of questions raised at you, or you do not, there's nobody helping you out. So it's not possible, or either you succumb to it or you walk out of it.
Correct.
So what do you have to say about that? Because that's another kind of stereotype women are handling these days.
True. So I think, see, life has to be about balance. I think the world will not succeed if, you know, it's not about men being superior, women being superior. Both have to be equal, and both have to navigate this journey together as equal partners. Now, what is happening is, because for so many years, centuries, I would say, women have been subjugated. Now, when they are speaking up and opening their mouth and saying that, you know, this is not acceptable to me, a little bit the balance is swinging to the other side in terms of perception, etc. But I'd rather have that than a woman going through a emotionally violent marriage.
Yeah.
I'd rather have her speak out. So yeah, it's okay. It's okay. The world, it will come back to a center point. And I don't think the fear of how the world sees you or how you will be. Again, Dr.
Stereotype.
Cantor said that women are constantly navigating this. Sorry to use these words, but but again, this is a research. So the bitch versus the bimbette fine line. So if you're hard and you know, especially if you want to, if you're a tough leader, then they'll say, "My, what a bitch." A man will be tough. He'll say, "What a strong leader." And if you're not a bitch, then you're a bimbette. So this is again the traps that. You know, this is again, but we have to find that balance, no? We can't worry about what the world will tell us.
So, you know, like, there are certain steps that we have to take. There are reservations for women now in parliament, etc. A couple of years ago, I was doing one of the events for Exchange for Media, and we invited Mark Reed. And he looked at the agenda. He said, "I have time, but I will not speak at an event where no woman is speaking. At least bring 2 women on agenda, and only then I'll speak." So I appreciate it, and I had not noticed that there was no, because perhaps I am gender agnostic. I did not notice until he brought it into my notice that, you know, there are no women on my agenda. And every year now we struggle to find more women speakers because there are no women at CEO levels, like very few of them. So what are some of the initiatives that men, women together at senior level can take, because sometimes you have to do particular things just to bring in that equality. So what are some of the measures that can be done at corporate level to bring women up there?
I think two things I would really focus on. One is, first and foremost, all leaders, all managers, all CEOs need to understand that diversity has a business outcome. You know what happens? All of us have run organizations, been sales heads and marketing heads and managed supply chains, etc. And we have so many numbers that we have to deliver on, right? The EBITDA and the top line and the margin and the collections and then you add one more ratio, diversity. People say, क्यों ये एक रेशियो ऐड करे, इसका क्या होने वाला है? कुछ नहीं होने वाला. And I will get incompetent, just because you have this ratio, I will get incompetent people. We won't focus on meritocracy. So I think first and foremost, the education, the almost evangelizing that diversity equals business, good business results. And there are enough cases today which show you that the more inclusive and more diverse an organization, the better your results are. So I think that's the first and foremost thing we must teach all our managers and show them the results. The second thing is, and this is very interesting, Naziya. So, I mean, very recently on one of my boards, this discussion was going on that there is a senior woman who's being looked at to grow to the head of sales. And everybody in the boardroom was talking about, everybody admitted she was very competent, she's very good, etc. But they all said, this head of sales job requires nearly 200 days of traveling internationally. And will she be able to do it? Not because she had said no, not because she was not competent to do that, but because she's a mother, she needs to take care of the house. So actually they were contemplating not offering her that role because they have decided that she'll not travel for 200 days. And that is something I call the paternalistic bias. So you are doing it out of good intention. Nobody was doing it out of malintention there. Good intention कि नहीं ये तो माँ है, उसके तो बच्चे हैं, उसका तो घर है, and therefore we should not offer her this job. Nobody asked her. And when they asked her, she said, of course I want this job. So I tell people, and when people used to ask me that you are such a proponent of diversity, what have you done in your own organizations? So I would say that one thing that I have done is I've always treated my men and women exactly in the same manner. Yeah, so except for that time when they're pregnant and the first year after delivery, except for that, the same toughness that I've shown the guys, I've shown the girls. Because if you don't do that, you will bonsai them. You have to give them the tough roles, you have to give them the tough jobs, only then will they grow. So these are the two fundamental changes I think we need to make.
How much time do we have?
Okay, I wanted to see the timer.
Okay. These are minutes or seconds?
Yeah, I think we have 15 minutes more to go. So
It's
we'll
stuck,
take
it's
some
not-
questions from the house.
No, I can go on talking on this topic for hours. I wanted to, before we open it to the audiences, I wanted one last question. If you can give me an example of how your presence in an organization as a woman led to profitability, an input that you gave, which perhaps wouldn't have come from a male member, and it changed the dynamics.
So I would say that, perhaps it would have come from a male member. Let me not say that just because I was a woman.
No, because you're saying that women also add to profitability. Right?
Okay, so let me put it in this manner. I think men and women think differently. So if there are, and I'm talking not only of the organizations I have run, Naziya, but even on the boards that I'm on, the way all the men end up thinking or coming out with solutions to a problem in a very similar fashion. Because the thinking is alike. I have always been innovative and different in my thinking. For example, in my own organization, the two things I focused on, and I don't think the men who had run it before me or ran it after me have focused on, is this whole concept of tough love as a cultural proposition. That you have to do, how do you balance being tough and at the same time letting people know you care about them? Then they accept negative feedback, they accept criticism, because at the bottom of their heart they know that she cares about us.
It's like being a mother.
It's like being a mother. So I think I brought that tough love concept very well to an organization, which then led to retention, which led to lower attrition, which led to where people stayed with us in our organization. And media is not a place that people stay for more than 3 years, for 20 years. You know, their whole career they spent with me. And as a consequence of just stability, we were one of the highest in profitability in the sector that we were in. So I think that's one example.
So, yeah, there's one gentleman who has already raised his hand.
We'll pass on the mic. Even the timer is giving us tough love, I would like to say. We want to take all the questions, but we'll try to take as many as possible.
So, very wise words, ma'am.
Only one, as of now.
Very wise words. My question is, when women are bosses, are they more sympathetic or empathetic towards their own gender? Or they also become in the rat race like men? Like in the Indian subcontinent, there's always been some woman leader, but I don't think they have promoted women to kind of develop. They behave more man-like than woman-like. Thank you.
So my first book was called Lady, You're Not a Man. Precisely telling women that you don't have to be man-like in order to succeed. As women, you can do well. So that, that was on a lighter note. At every conference, I get asked this question that, you know, women are women's worst enemies. We have not seen women support other women. But I would say that two things. One is, look around you. Look at, I have so many cases where I've had women bosses or I have had women subordinates. All of them have done well because they had a woman leader. The reason why this myth sort of perpetuates is that women, younger women, many times expect the woman boss to be extra sympathetic. Now, if I have to be fair, now you are telling me I'm pregnant and therefore I can't come to work, but I need you to come to work. Unless, of course, you are ill or something. Okay, pregnancy, I keep on telling, is not a disease. You can come into work. So why do you expect me to be extra sympathetic? Because if I'm extra sympathetic to you, I'm being unfair to the men. So I think when we are trying as bosses, as women bosses, to be fair, that is getting a bit misconstrued. And I don't think women should be extraordinarily sympathetic to other women. That's a form of bias itself.
I'm told we have the time for one more quick question while we are waiting for Gopal sir to join us here. So one more question quickly we will address. Did we see hands? Do we have questions? Okay,
yeah.
sir wants to ask a question. Let's pass on the mic.
Tell us a little more about Azol Ventures.
Sure. So after having spent 30 years in media, I decided that, you know, for people like us who have been very blessed in the opportunities we got throughout our career, we were the post-liberalization era career men and women. I thought it was our job to look at how we can improve the inequality that exists in society today and look at what we can do for the bottom of the pyramid. So Azol Ventures is a startup that I've started along with my son, where we source food products from self-help groups. There are some excellent women and farmer communities all across rural India. So we source food products from rural Maharashtra, and then we've created a digital brand through which we sell these products, which are ancient grains and healthy flour mixes and food products that are slowly going out of our urban plate because we don't know about the goodness of these natural foods.
Thank you so much, Apurva, for your amazing wisdom. I mean, I learned so much from you today, and I hope I continue. If I get stuck, I'll call you. Thank you.